Hello and welcome to the video for Tuesday, July 21st. I'm going to open up the waiting room and let people in.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Awesome. How are you?
I'm good. You like this overcast weather?
Oh my God. Isn't it great?
Yeah. I'm going to open up my shades here so I can see a little bit of it.
I had all my doors and windows open because we get a lot of breeze up here. And it's 100. And I was like, well, I guess I should close them. But it really wasn't that, it was actually pretty nice in here because there's that much of a cloud and breeze.
Mm.
Oh, yeah? That's nice.
Less monsoon season.
I know. So I ended up closing them and put the air on to like 85 or something. But if it rains, I bet it'll drop, what, 20 degrees or more?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
That would
That'd
be
be
nice,
awesome.
huh?
Kim
So,
and I had
oh,
fun.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Kim and I had fun. Whatever that Discord, the chat thingy, we could share files and do all kinds of collaborating. And Mia figured out that you can copy a layer from one file to another file.
You figured out what?
You can duplicate a layer, like maybe Kim has a star, animated star, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
duplicate it to
In,
my other document.
like in Photoshop?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool.
It was awesome. It was just a random button push, and I was like, oh my God, that works. So who's signed on already? Who's here?
Say that again?
Who's here in the class so far?
Oh, let's see. Well, I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm
This is
fairly certain I'm here.
I
I'm
think
here
so too, yeah.
physically. I'm at least part of me is here mentally.
Oh, physically, if not mentally. So they,
Yeah. It looks like everybody is kind of wandering in.
I do not think I'll manage to figure out how to get out of full screen before the class ends.
Okay. Okay, let's
My
see.
camera still doesn't work, sorry. I don't know what happened to it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we have a lot of people, and a couple more people will probably join in a few minutes. I'm doing the attendance right now, and then let me also check to see who the lucky presenter is today.
Me.
Oh wait, hold on. I'll go back to who said me?
Diego.
Oh, hi Diego.
Hi.
You know, you haven't grown at all during this class. You're still
No,
a little boy.
I'm still the same man. I mean, boy.
Still the same man who caught a fish this big.
Yep.
So, do you have something presentation-wise?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And are you going to be sharing your screen, or do you want me to share mine?
It's in the shared folder, but I already have my presentation popped up, so I can share mine.
All right. Well, let me see. I think we got everybody but one. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait. There's the one. Okay. I think that's everybody. So let me go ahead and enable sharing.
Cool.
Okay. It should be enabled. So if you want to take over, Diego, you're welcome to it.
All right. Cool. I think my screen is now sharing. So let's get to presentation mode. All right. Yeah. So as for my topic on digital arts, I decided to get in touch with graffiti. Pause that. All right. And so as for the beginnings of graffiti, it goes back all the way to like ancient Greece, Egypt, and Rome. I don't have a specific time period on where, or like a a specific date on when things were created, but I have examples on where and it happened in like and what sort of symbolization. But as for the beginnings of it, the origin of the word graffiti means scratch, so it kind of makes sense to what the modern graffiti is. It's typically just scratch like designs or scratched art, but that's where it just originated from. But some of these architectures were mainly built on walls, or like they were typically using carvings of a sharp object to like carve into the wall. As you can see in the Egypt one in the top right is carved of like a cat-like statue or something like that. Normally their graffitis would be more symbolic towards religion at the time, or some sort of statue or person that would cause a great propaganda in that time era. So a lot has changed from what graffiti was back in now, and a lot has progressed to what graffiti is classified as. So as for one example, stencil graffiti is just basically using different variations of shapes or stiff materials to overlay on a canvas or free free canvas. And you can see on the example on the very right side is just it's a tiger but written with a bunch of graffiti in between the what were the masks, or the mask layering to create that like sort of illusion or false like imagery of a lion or a tiger. Who knows? But we know it's an animal with a cool design of graffiti. And if we go more in depth about how people write or how people design graffiti, it's normally using, you could use like the smallest, like it just ranges between like what size you want to compose your art. So if you were to do something that's like small, as in like on canvas, like that example, or a sticker, stickers are counted as graffiti, but people tend to say it's like a lazy artwork style, but I think it just gives more of a creation towards what other communities are involved to what people like to do or what people like to draw or illustrate. So as for the origination of how graffiti is like shown is by tagging, and that's just basically writing the artist name in their hand style. So like as you can see from the bottom picture, it's just a panoramic of many different artists tagging like a bunch of buildings. And to some people's view, people look at that as like defacement or vandalism in some ways, that someone could be living here and don't want to look at that all the time. But other people might look at it as if it was like filled with something, because before that's there, it's just a solid color that's there. And so it just creates this different depiction of creating something on a large canvas that is just like set there. I think of graffiti as like small communities in a giant bowl. Like there's different things happening all at once that mean like different different art influences and art inspiration. Like there's these pictures that, like at the bottom left, this one's very impactful to how graffiti, not as just as a street art, but just as like a mural aspect to how it can display a what is it called, a perspective to how society is being treated during that time. And I think the way graffiti is meant is very like free and very like free form expression type of graphic. I just feel like the way that it's been portrayed has been very hard to understand, but it shouldn't be a sour aspect to what places are here in the world. You know, we don't see the world to our own eyes at the same time, but we can understand bits and pieces. And I take graffiti like that. So graffiti is just like a piece of art that you just come and go, and you just see how it impacts different people during that time. But as for different styles, it's not like I'm very interested in this, but I like the way typography looks. So as for the middle one and the right side, those two pictures kind of have like a very different way of understanding calligraphy, but also language, because sometimes it's not always about looking at the letter. It's just about how the letter looks sometimes. And it may be hard to read but that's just a certain style. There's just many different styles that can be depicted as just one thing. It's just a variety of different things that bring like a bunch of people together. And as for more specific examples, the wide style on the very left, you can't really depict very much words on there, but you can depict like the shape or like the understanding of letters, but it's just making letters into shapes. It's just exaggerating it to like its points on how a letter should look. And then there's the opposite, which is called a blockbuster, or what was it called? Oh, I had it on my notes. I don't remember specifically, but yeah, it's called a blockbuster. It's just very blocky, but it just at some I just say this image is just very like particular to just have it blocky looking over graffiti that's been painted over. I find it to be interesting. And as for wall art or just like display art, I think it's very I think it should be more well known to have that, but I feel like the laws that are put in place are just very difficult to show art but not get repercussions on the law or people that don't like it because it's on a building. But yeah, these are my sources. So yeah.
All right.
you.
Woo. Nice job. Really cool. So, what do you guys think about that topic? You have any opinions about graffiti?
I do, because I love graffiti. And I have friends who get really pissed off about trains that have graffiti, and they get mad and they go, that's vandalism. But I just think it's beautiful. It's just so intense to me. And like you said, I just like what you said about it might just be the shapes, you know, the kind of the geometrics of it all that catch you or whatever. And I was kind of curious, like how other societies view it, you know, because I have some really linear kind of conservative friends who get really angry about graffiti. And then I have like hippy dippy artsy friends who just, you know, just appreciate it for what it is. And they don't, like I had a friend who said, oh, it's just gang and drug symbols.
Yeah, there's a lot of what I was reading, a lot of like conflict between like how people use that propaganda to their own benefit to political power. But I decided not to get into that because it's a very grummy aspect to understand graffiti as that label compared to graffiti is just an art or just a shape or just some sort of like thing. Yeah, I understand the trains, like that's just tagging, but I remember when I was younger, my parents told me not to look at graffiti because it doesn't look good. But I always thought the opposite. It's always interesting to look at something that's not.
I will go down to that train station.
We can't hear you, Mia.
Oh, I'll just go to the train station and stare at the art, or I'll stop and watch a train go by, because then I'll take pictures of the. I just think the graffiti is really pretty. But if you notice that Crusader graffiti, it was religious propaganda then.
I'm gonna go back. Oh yeah, look at all these crosses.
I thought it was kind of interesting what you said about how some people think of graffiti as like lazy artwork. Because it's just kind of, sure, I guess maybe it looks lazy afterwards when you're viewing it, when it's done, but if you think about like what they had to do to make it happen, it's like it's the least kind of lazy art that you could possibly do. Like, you have to go out and risk getting arrested by the police, and you have to
Yeah.
physically spray this huge, like, on a huge surface. And, you know, it's like,
And
it's
likely be
very, very active, actually. Kind of interesting that some people might call it a lazy art.
Yeah, they just stay anonymous for that reason, because of all those repercussions of getting accused of vandalizing. It's just very hard.
Right.
Yeah, so good job. There's I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, if I can do that. Let's see, share screen, share screen, share. Okay, let's see. Just to follow up, nice job, Diego. I really was very interested in your presentation. And just to follow up on that a little bit, here's a couple things. If you guys are interested in graffiti at all, here's a couple things you might check out.
Is it a documentary? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a film that's really fun and really interesting. And you guys have heard of Banksy before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably the most famous graffiti artist nowadays. But he made this film, and it's pretty amusing and pretty fascinating at the same time. Exit through the gift shop. And I know it's available online via streaming services. So, you know, you might find it in Netflix or iTunes or whatever. That's very interesting.
I have the chills on that. I have the chills on that. Like that, I have goosebumps in the hair standing up on my arms. I just really love that stuff for some reason.
Yeah, and there's some really talented people out there who've done some great art, and actually some of them have become really famous and are making a bunch of money. So of course, there's Banksy, who is you know, like I said, probably the most famous artist in the world, or as from a graffiti perspective, and his stuff is worth literally millions of dollars. And then another person to check out, I think I'm going to misspell his. Oh, there we go. Is Shepard Fairey, and he's the guy that did all the Obey stuff. You guys familiar with that?
Yeah, I remember the Obey part.
He's also the guy who did the Obama poster when Obama was running for president the first time. You know, that famous poster.
Change. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me bring it up real quick.
Interesting how he spells shepherd.
He what?
Interesting how he spells shepherd and fairy. Like fairy has an extra letter, shepherd's missing one, kind of.
Yeah, you know, this hope poster of Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, this brings us back to copyright. He got into a huge amount of trouble for it. Does anybody know why? Anybody read about it?
Oh, I remember this. If I remember right, the picture that he happened to reference was for somebody else. And even though I think he was like allowed to do it or something, he still got in trouble because it still matched like what it was, I think.
Yeah, so what happened, remember how we were talking about copyright and how, you know, there's something called fair use, which means you can take in somebody else's work, and if you change it enough that it becomes original, then, you know, it's fair use and you can use it, right? But what happened was a photographer for the AP, the Associated Press, took this picture of Obama. And, you know, the picture looks exactly like Shepard Fairey's poster. So when Shepard Fairey did the poster, he didn't ask permission and he didn't pay a licensing fee to the photographer for this poster that he did, which, you know, like I said, the image looks exactly like the photo. Now, what he did was he made this poster and he donated, or this design, and he donated it to the Obama campaign. He made two of them, you know, one said hope and the other said change, I think. And, you know, but even though he did that, he still got sued. And what happened, this is kind of terrible, but what happened was he got sued by this photographer, and then he made a really big mistake. He tried to cover his tracks, and he took a bunch of documents that showed, like, you know, I don't know exactly what they showed, but they were relevant to the case, and he shredded them, right?
Right.
but then he basically owned up in court to the fact that he had done that he had basically obstructed justice. So, you know, he was, I don't know what his penalty was. I'm sure it was a big fine or whatever. But anyway, it just goes to show you kind of what can happen with copyright and everything. But one other thing that he did more recently in the last couple of years, he made these posters here. Let's see, this We the People posters, where he showed different ethnicities, you know, Americans that came from different ethnic backgrounds, to show that, you know, hey, we're all Americans. And they're really beautiful. I think they're screen prints or something, but you can look those up. Here's another one, this one right here. Yeah, really, really beautiful stuff. But anyway, okay, so let's get back to the class here. Okay, so thank you again, Diego. That was very interesting and well researched.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start out looking into your folders and look at any you know, Photoshop Illustrator work that you've done, and also look at any ideas, any sketches or ideas that you've come up with for this ad campaign. So let me go ahead and get into the folders, which means I have to go into Pima.
It's going bottom.
Yeah, I have to go into the pima.edu. Okay. All right, here we go. I'm a big fan of graffiti. I think I hate to say this because it sounds so snobbish, but I'm a big fan of good graffiti.
Like, I understand.
You do?
Completely.
Like some graffiti, like some of those people, there should be graffiti police, but they shouldn't like stop people from doing graffiti. They should just rough up people who do bad graffiti.
I think what I was trying to get to is the idea of tagging anywhere, like in any public place, is a bad idea. But I feel like when there's a place where, if it's like hidden or just like somewhere like an abandoned location, which is really like hard to like show that type of art, but like if you can do it there, then that's like a secret factor that's just kind of mysterious, but it's also like elemental to like
Bisbee
showing
has,
like art.
yeah, Bisbee has
like,
some
uh,
hats, and some of them are kind of, you know, shadowed by a bridge or whatever, but I love them wherever they show up. They just have, they're everywhere. You could be hiking up the hill and there'll be one on the rock, and then it'll be downtown on a building.
Yeah.
Yeah, the city should allow
the,
it. Did you want to say something?
I think the issue is like when they graffiti, you know, swastikas or genitalia and stuff like that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
where it becomes that's where it's like they. So in other words, it'll be like regulated, but at the same time, I mean, it just sounds like a tricky, you know.
Yeah, it's a very like you're standing on fire type of situation when you're in the graffiti world. It's always safer to do stickers, but everyone slaps stickers everywhere too. So
Yeah, here's another form of graffiti, which is pretty fun. Somebody took these metal, I don't know what they are, enclosures that are in a Los Angeles park, and they put giant stickers on them that look like holodeck control settings from Star Trek.
that's pretty cool.
And, you know, doing that and doing political statements, or even just doing social statements about change and hope and stuff like that. It's all really interesting and cool, and it's definitely a valid form of art.
I guess if it's somewhat removable, if someone really freaks out about where it is, I suppose it's a thoughtful element, but
A sticker as opposed to a painting.
well, or washable paint.
A sticker.
Uh-huh.
Right.
You're right.
No.
It's fine. I'll just make like a
Yeah,
million
some of the
stickers.
stickers-
They'll be everywhere, and everyone will know it was me.
Well, you know what's interesting? Shepard Fairey did the Obey stickers. He was a big skateboard rider, and you know, he was also a graffiti artist. And what he did was, his claim to fame was he made these little Obey stickers. And if you don't know, the image on the Obey sticker is Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
And it says, like, you know, he had different stickers that said, you know, Andre's Posse or Obey or whatever. And what he did was, I don't know why, but he was traveling the world. Maybe he was just traveling or whatever. But he took these stickers and he put them everywhere. Like he would go to Denmark and put them on poles and stuff like that. And what happened was, and this was before cell phones, I believe, is he just became world famous because people would take pictures of these and be like, oh my God, I saw this in LA. Oh, I saw one in Dusseldorf, right?
Mhm.
And so his guerrilla campaign made him famous. And then, he was able to turn that notoriety into, art shows and commissions. And now he's got his Obey clothing line, which,
Yeah.
and the thing is, I'm not somebody I don't really believe in the term sell out, because I think if you're an artist and you make money anyway, more power to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if 20 years ago he was putting stickers on a pole in Dusseldorf, and today he's got a multi-million-dollar clothing line with Obey or whatever, more power to him, in my opinion.
I think that's like when they're like Puritans and all that, and like when you're graffiti, you're like this symbol of rebellion and all that. So probably when they see you become commercialized and all that, they're like sell out. It's no longer for the cause or anything.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, of course, is entitled to their own opinion about what sellout means, but I mean, if you're, especially in this field, graphic design, there's, if you say fine art's over here and graphic design, the commercial art is over here. There's certainly some crossover where some graphic design is fine art and some fine art might be considered graphic material. But, certainly I think it's valid to be able to sell your work and consider it both art and commerce,
Mhm.
But Greg, what would you consider sellout? Just so we don't do that.
Just so I can do that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Diego, I didn't understand what you said.
No, I did ask a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard maybe it was Adrian.
I have a question, Greg.
Yes, Yi.
Yeah, will you bail me out if I get into trouble?
Yeah.
Will I bail you out
You
if
can
you
start
get
a fundraiser.
arrested while your graffiti art is happening?
Yeah, I'm doing it for class.
Yeah, well, I think that's a bad idea, because then Pima's going to get sued and I'm going to get sued and I'm going to claim that I never talked to you.
It's probably
I think it's the opposite.
On that one.
I think it's the opposite of bailing you out. I think it's like yee-hoo, at that point. So
I'll just make a sticker of DAR 120.
okay, good idea. Okay, well, why don't we go into the folders here, and Diego, you're still at the top, so yeah.
Yep. I think I have stuff in my Photoshop folder. It should be the recent assignments. This one was the world tour, and then the other one should be the fruit one.
Okay.
Oh, not the fruit bowl, the fruit head.
Okay.
Yep.
Looks good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the talented Cynthia.
Hello.
Hello. Anything in the Cynthia folder?
I have the sketch for the project we started yesterday.
Okay. Great.
It's not the best. Okay. I did it in like 2 seconds. Okay. It's just an idea.
Everyone here is like, yes, we took 2 seconds on the sketch and I took like 4 hours on the sketch.
My professional ethics forbid me from looking at anything that was done in less than 5 seconds. So,
oh, man. Well, I'm safe at least.
Okay, good. So let's, this dragon?
Yeah.
All right.
Our idea was to do like selling dragons in a way.
Selling a dragon?
Yeah.
So, I'll take all of them.
Like selling it, like Craigslist selling it, kind of?
Yeah, like an animal shelter in a way, I think. We haven't discussed the details specifically, but...
An animal shelter for fantasy animals.
Kind of.
Nice, great idea.
The original idea revolved around the title Rent a Drake, but after Cynthia mistakenly thought it was about the artist Drake, and she said that she just didn't know what fantasy drakes were, we went with dragons.
Right.
Be pimping.
Rent a Drake. I want to rent Drake for my next birthday party.
Well,
Um,
imagine if you guys just had multiple Drakes. You know, you got Drake Bell. Who was that other Drake? The one from the meme.
okay, well, do you guys want to give some feedback to Cynthia and Luke about their idea?
I just think it's gonna be really fun.
I think Luke mentioned that like when we do like the billboard, we can have a dragon and we can say like actual size.
Oh, nice.
Or yeah, that. And then what was the other one, Luke? The one with the small dragon?
Big things come in small packages.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Like
You
a
guys should
tiny-
have like a tiny little warning area, like in the corner where it says we are not responsible for any injuries caused by falling from flying or being bitten or fire.
Well, that's in the
Accidental fire.
firework. You
That's
don't get
funny.
the luxury of having to go through the cautionary things until you get to signing for it.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I have some questions like, does the dragon have its shots? How many sheep does it eat per day? You know, things like that. Practical stuff.
Well,
I
sir,
mean,
If it's
some
hunting, it
might
should
eat
be a
dragon,
weekend.
might eat like
qualified as an
something like
adoption.
dragonflies or even just regular pet food.
Yeah, or regular pet owners.
Or maybe they just eat the
What, they
pets.
eat regular pets?
Yeah, right. Regular pets. I like that.
They eat like 5 bunnies a day.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's a great idea, and I can't wait to see what you guys do with this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I do think like for the ads, you guys can have like one big dragon, like have like 3 sizes, you know, the small one is very cute and all that. And then you have like a medium one and then a big one for like a family wide and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, we did have a bunch of designs in the other folder.
You have more designs in the other folder?
Yeah, we just haven't gotten to it.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we jump over there? It's a good idea. So, I just have to. Oh, here we go. So, in your folder, right?
Yeah, it's in the Arch group project folder.
Okay, so this first one is hers, right?
Yeah.
That's the one we just saw, I believe. Yeah, and then we have.
Not mine.
That's yours. Very nice.
That one's mine.
Oh, that's yours. That's yours too. Okay. Looks good. And this is you as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the way you did the letters with the dragon behind it. Oh,
That's the small size.
Yeah, like I told Cynthia, these were really rough sketches.
Okay. Yeah, he's cute though.
Mm,
Oh, cool. Like the dragon on the van kind of thing.
nice.
Yeah, I mean, like me and Cynthia quickly yesterday you said that, like, you know, this could have like a sky with clouds in the background of the van.
Nice.
Also note that I can't draw vans.
You could have fooled me. Yeah, I can't drive any sort of vehicle either, or I can't draw any sort of vehicle. I guess I can't drive any vehicle either. But okay, those look good. Thank you for sharing those. Okay, so we're down here to Eric.
Yeah, I just got the brainstorming or sketches.
Okay. So is it, oh, this billboard thing?
Yeah, billboard and the magazine.
Okay.
Ooh, cool.
So Tucson Comic Convention. All right. And then this magazine. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So any feedback from you guys?
Nice.
I think it's really good. I like how, like, for the magazine, I love like the what was it, like the dots, I guess, gradient. It's kind of, it just fits the theme.
Yeah, very comic booky, right?
Yeah.
And then he's got this logo here, which is like a book that you read, like a comic book, and then a rising sun.
Yeah. Adrian is doing the other half. He has the van and the webpage.
Okay.
So we came together on the logo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we can look at.
There was some things I was gonna say. Like, I did updated the logo to have white stroke and drop shadow.
Oh, okay, cool. We'll take a look in your folder next.
Yeah, I'm trying to upload it, but it says it's gonna take an hour, and it's like I think I just showed my screen, and it's my phone.
I did PNGs, they went faster.
What's that?
I uploaded PNGs because they just.
Oh, they go faster, yeah.
Yeah. Just,
So, I think these look great, and I'm excited you guys are doing this. I will tell you one thing. I'm intimately familiar with the Tucson Comic Con because I've been going like almost every year. But it is. I guess I better get here. I'll do it in the chat here. The name of the event is the Tucson Comic-Con, and the reason for that is copyright. There is a company that owns the word Comic-Con, you know, and so the Tucson people can't use it, so they have to use Comic-Con, right? So their website is TucsonComic-Con.com and .org, but just as a heads up to you guys, you know, if you're doing their advertising, it would probably be that Tucson Comic-Con.
very interesting.
Yeah. Okay, but it looks great, and I'm excited to see it. Should we go into your folder, Adrian, and look at your stuff?
I don't really have something uploaded because I'm struggling with file sizes.
Okay, so you haven't uploaded anything yet?
Yeah. I guess I could share the screen if you want.
Well, you mean share your screen?
Yeah, because I don't know how else to show it. I'm kind of waiting for it to upload, but it's not
Okay.
uploading.
Yeah, I'll stop my screen share. Why don't you share yours if you like?
You know, me and my brother were supposed to cosplay at Comic-Con this year, and then all the Corona stuff happened, and now I don't have all the materials to make our costumes.
What were the costumes gonna be?
Death and Fury from the Darksiders series.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Right?
Okay. I'm not sure if you guys can see it.
Pretty. The way the gradient.
Okay, so
Also.
yeah, so one of the names you were picking was also, it could have been the Houston Comics. So I was gonna add a sticker, but I'm trying to open another one.
That worked.
Yeah, what formats are the templates? Oh, here we go. This was not my idea for the band.
Cool.
The logo was gonna look more like this. Any suggestions?
Suggestions.
Like, how about the name? What do you guys think? Which one sounds better?
Tucson.
Yeah, probably too.
So are you gonna change it to Tucson, the Tucson Con, Adrian?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's the
I think
more
that's the
popular
name
one.
of the font.
What about the font?
Oh, that's just the name of the font, I believe. I
Oh,
think probably need to change the title.
okay.
So it was the name of the font? I thought it was a name suggestion.
No, it's the name of the font on defont.com.
Okay. One suggestion you might try is taking this text and moving it up so it doesn't overlap the book, just so it kind of ends right above the book. I think that might look interesting.
Yeah. And making sure, I don't know, like, so it stands out just even a little tiny bit more. Although it's kind of cool because it's in the clouds, but it seems like the edges are soft. I don't know how to say it.
Okay.
It could be more defined. I don't know how to say that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I know what you're saying. A little more refined, a little cleaner, a little sharper kind of thing.
Maybe something that makes it stick out just a little bit more on the edges. I don't know.
What do you mean edges?
The letters, like they blend in a little, which is, it looks great, but I don't know. I think I added a stroke or something to one of my letters or something.
Yeah, you could try that, Adrian. You could put a stroke around all the letters in the font, even a very light, like a 1-point black stroke or 2-point.
Or even color, maybe.
Could be color, yeah.
Because none of them are connected.
Well, you don't have to do it right now, Adrian. It's just something you can consider trying on your next round.
I guess I just have a lot of trouble with my text fading into the background, so I've been trying to work on it sticking out more.
One other thing, Adrian, the picture of the young woman on the van, it's a very arresting image because, it's really interesting. I was wondering, because Kim mentioned cosplay, I was wondering if you might consider finding an image of somebody in a cosplay costume to be on the van.
I was looking a lot for it and I couldn't find one.
Oh,
there was always an issue. Like one, I was also looking for non-copyright,
right.
I can donate some pictures I have.
Yeah, there you go. Get a picture of Kim and
Like a cartoon as well.
I was also thinking, what if I drew it? Like I can probably draw I don't know, maybe like a cartoon character or something like that. Like maybe the mascot of the what's it called? Of this fictional Tucson comic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna have to be better, but it is gonna require a bit more time.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, well, nice job. I'm gonna go back into the folder. I guess I'm gonna share my screen again and go back into the folder, and let's see. So that was Eric. So now we're up to Carolina and Robin. And is there stuff in both folders or just in one folder?
Yeah. Oh, go on.
There's stuff in both our folders. So I have the billboard and a couple of other, one World Tour Vacation, and then she has the logo and the magazine.
Okay, so here's the billboard.
Nice.
Okay, let's give them.
Oh, that looks cozy.
It still needs work, but that's just somewhat how it's gonna be.
On the billboard, would you have would the white part print on the billboard or would just the main part print on the billboard?
Just the main part. There wouldn't be any white. I don't know why it's showing up white. It wasn't earlier.
Photoshop does that sometimes. It'll just add an extra border to whatever you made. I don't know why, but it does that when you throw it into Google Drives, but it's not actually there.
Okay, yeah, because I would be
Google Drives then.
Oh, I would be curious because you want to just print the colored part, and I don't know, maybe the professor can jump in, like how would it, so you wouldn't accidentally get white printed around your big billboard?
Yeah, no, that shouldn't show up.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are probably right. It's probably a Google thing. Yeah, you can tell it's a Google thing because when you see the icon here, it doesn't have white borders. But if I open this with Photoshop, it's probably not going to have the white borders on it.
Oh, interesting.
Let's see what it looks like. Yeah. Yeah, so it's totally just a Photoshop thing. I mean, a Google thing, Google Drive thing.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I want to mention something about this Surplus font. This Trailbound font is really cool and interesting. And then Surplus seems somewhat plain, and it's over there all by itself, kind of lonely or whatever. It's like it seems a little like a bit of a disconnect with everything else that's going on with this.
Wow, but there's a lonely camper.
It's a solo camper.
You
So
know.
it almost seems like if the full name of the company is Trailbound Surplus, maybe Surplus gets maybe it gets centered and maybe gets a slightly more interesting font or something and becomes a little bit more important, because right now it seems like a footnote, but it's not a very it doesn't raise my interest the way that the Trailbound does.
Okay. Well, maybe this is just a Surplus site for the Trailbound company.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, is this the name of the company that you guys are thinking of with the word surplus, right?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking it could be like, I guess I was thinking of REI Co-op and how the co-op is kind of like it's not the main
Okay.
focus, but we could definitely make Surplus like a little more interesting and do the same font maybe.
Yeah, try that and try a couple different applications of it and see what you like, you know. But I really like, I mean, you've chosen great photography. I like the way that this little light from the lamp kind of, and the orange lamp reflect the orange and the light down here. And then you carried the orange through on your text. I might be interested to see, you may have tried this already, but I wonder if this orange was more saturated. Do you know what I mean by that?
You mean darker?
No, I mean have light in it, like the way that this tent has light, pushing the orange to be more almost fluorescent.
I tried, but it looked kind of weird.
Like it was too
It was too much.
too in your face orange. Okay, great.
Yeah.
This is attractive the way it looks right here. Okay, but yeah, it looks really great. Okay, let's see. And then okay, and that's what we got in your folder, right?
Yeah, and I put the world tour.
Okay. Nice. I like the way your font looks down here.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Okay, now we'll jump over to Robin's folder and see what she's got. Okay, so.
Yeah, so these are the ideas of the logo, and we're still developing a little bit. This is like the old version, but we put a line underneath, and we're gonna maybe try to make it look more like a trail, and then we're gonna add some pine cones also, just so it makes it a little more interesting. So it's a work in progress.
It looks good though. Any
the simplicity of it.
What's that? What was that, Adrian?
Oh, I like the simplicity of it.
Oh, okay.
So you guys think maybe we should make Surplus look the same as Trailbound and then leave it underneath?
I like it maybe if it was just bolded or had a stroke around it or stood out a little more. But I guess I was going with it's the Surplus versus, you know what I mean? And Surplus is like superfluous. I like it that it's less sticky out. But that's just me.
The official term.
I don't think it
sticky outy.
Really needs like a stroke.
Yeah, like it's just something something that made it maybe just a little less, maybe just a tiny little less thin and obscure. But I kind of liked it where it was. But that's, I'm just saying what I thought, and I'm nobody.
I also I was gonna try to put it in all caps too. So maybe all caps and a little bigger and a little more bold. Maybe.
I would say try all those different things and put them all up on a sheet and share them, and we can see which ones stand out. Another idea is the whole rounded text on the top and the bottom, so it looks kind of like a seal, trail bound on the top and then surplus underneath.
I don't get it, sorry.
Let me show you. I was just working on a logo. Let's see. Do you see how the text is wrapped around in a circle?
Yeah.
So it could say trail bound in the top half and then surplus in the bottom half, going the other direction.
Okay, yeah, that's what I had for the logo underneath, the vertical one, except I forgot how to make surplus go inside the circle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you have to click on the white arrow and you have to click on the little line that's sticking up and click on the line and drag it into the circle.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, next time you show us this, you could show all those different ideas, and I'm sure there's be some interesting, cool stuff in there.
Yeah, cool.
I like how stylized things are. Like I like this stylized font, and I like this stylized lamp. It's very cool. And then
the Trailbound magazine is right under that. It's in Illustrator format because when I put it in Photoshop, the colors are all weird when it's on Google.
Okay. So what do you guys think of this?
Beautiful.
That font looks really good, like the title.
I think it's convincing.
And there's the surplus that kind of does both, and it has the line under it, so maybe that kind of groups it together.
It does do that, yeah.
And then I don't know why the lamp is unlit.
I just realized I was muted. I like that one.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it looks like you lost your little yellow circle.
Yeah, I tried to invert the colors just because I didn't want the circle to be like the main focus, because if it was yellow, it would be really bright. So there's actually a blue circle behind it, and it's a little bit transparent, which is probably why you can't see it.
Yeah, I can see that semi-transparent blue circle back there.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say that's cool. That's cool.
Thanks. If you guys have
maybe we so then you can do is have like 2 color palettes, one for the day and one for the night.
Oh, that's interesting.
Especially when medicine companies.
Yeah, I think we were going to try to not have like one set of colors, but rather have the colors be determined by the photos that we use. Like for Carolina's, she used a photo with more like purples and I forgot, like pinks and blues. And so that like determined her font. And since I was trying to like balance this, I used the yellow. So I don't think the plan is to have one color.
Yeah, it's a good plan. I mean, it really, the way the last one was kind of orange like the tent and this one's gold like the tent is really jumps it out,
Maybe the circle can be the, like I'm saying at the corner, there's this like brown orange type of color. Maybe you could use that for the circle.
Okay, so having like the same kind of color tone as the yellow, but just darker and muted.
Yeah, like the one in the corner. Like if you see not necessarily at the top of the picture, do you see like from the ground and then next to the tree on the right side, there's this like, I'll say a bit like a gradient that's bright.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. There's kind of like a glow in the tree. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like a type of bronze color.
Yeah. Yeah, I could mess around with that. Maybe even put like a gradient on the circle. Maybe like an inner, maybe like a circular gradient. I forgot what it's called. Radial gradient.
Radial gradient, yeah.
Yes, I think.
I hate to interrupt, but a bobcat just walked right in front of my window.
No way. That's so cool.
Yeah, dude.
That's so cool.
freaking lit.
Is it still there? Take a picture.
Yeah, take a picture.
No, it just, I would have, but it just like walked casually fast, and now it's like it just went into the wash or whatever.
That's cool.
That's really
There
cool.
was a Gila monster sitting right in front of my like the front door the other night. It's pretty crazy.
That's
It's
nuts.
like the strange animals are congregating to my
Are you
house.
more like in a desert part in Arizona?
Start taking photos for artist references.
Yeah, I took a photo of the Gila monster because it was just sitting there, but
Don't
the
tell, baby.
bobcat gone.
What color was
Sorry.
it? Like, was it the yellow one or the orange?
What?
Cool.
Was the Gila monster the orange one or the yellow type?
It was orange. It had like the orange freckles. Pretty cool.
I want to. I have two other suggestions I want to give to you about this design, but I got to find. I got to find your file first. Okay, so, Robin, do you know about the outer glow?
No.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm copying your lantern here, and then I'm going to make it's a vector smart object, huh? Okay. All right, I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to fill it with white, and I'm going to paste. I used the magic wand to select your lantern, and I'm going to paste it in place right here. And what I wanted to show you was that Photoshop has, down here in the special effects menu, it has something called outer glow. And outer glow can produce a kind of a light that comes out from behind your object. And so, you control the spread of it here. Not really seeing it the way I want to. Let's see. It's not coming out to the level that I would like. You can see over here the example of how it's doing it. Maybe I have to make this background black.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try that. Oh yeah. So
that's so cool.
now you can see that I overdid it. And the cool thing though is once you've created this special effect, by the way, you guys, you can turn these special effects on and off via the eyeball. And if you have multiple special effects, you can turn them all on and off via this eyeball. But the cool thing about these special effects is you can go back in and you can change them. So you can see how I totally overdid that one because I couldn't really see it. But if you then see the results of it and you want to change it a little bit, you can do that. And then you could also take the opacity down a little bit too. So it's just kind of, less of a glow or whatever. But anyway, that's one thing. But Mia, were you going to say something or?
No, that's really cool.
Yeah, and of course, this outer glow works really great. I use it on all kinds of stuff. It's a great way. You know how if you have like something that's dark, when you do design, you always want to think about high contrast. So you want to have like a dark figure on a light background or a light figure on a dark background, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this glow can if you have a dark figure on a dark background, you can put a subtle amount of white glow behind them and it will bring them out. I have a file open like that, so I'll just show it to you guys. Yeah, here it is. So do you see, if you look carefully, these two figures that are here, do you see the white glow that's around them?
Yeah.
So what that does is because without that, they blend into the background more. And so what that does is it pushes them out. And there's even a subtle white glow around this logo here, which pushes it out from the dark background, right? It sort of separates it, right? So, and when you're looking at stuff, you don't really, like your eye doesn't really notice that, like you don't, when you first look at it, you don't really notice the glow so much, it just kind of pulls it out. So you want it to be somewhat subtle, but you still want it to be effective, And the other thing I wanted to mention to you is, you know how you have all this space here under Trailbound before surplus? So what I was wondering is if you wanted to do something like,
oh, that'd be so cool. Yeah.
You have a silhouette of a hiker, and maybe you could even have their footsteps or something like that, but or even like sort of triangular arrowheads or something like that. That's kind of eating up that space that's there. I guess I got to turn off my layers here so we can see your thing again.
Yeah, I really like that idea.
Yeah. But I think you guys are doing great. I mean, you have really interesting ideas and cool logo and a bunch of different applications of it and great photos. So you're doing great.
Cool. Thanks for the tips.
Okay. And was there anything else that we're looking at from you?
No, those were the only two things in there.
Okay. Have we seen this skull sticker already?
You guys saw it yesterday.
Okay. All right. All right, so let's see, that was, okay, so now we're up to Kim. Kim, anything in Kim World?
I'm muted. There's a whole new file called Mirror Project.
And is it in the main folder or is it in
Yep,
photo?
it's the very first one. Very, very first.
Oh, Mirror Project, thank you.
Yes.
We have a shared folder. We're really cool.
Yeah.
Ooh, and then should I
We're
start
fancy.
here with Billboard?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I have music playing. I can't hear anything technically.
I was trying to add in a background, but that was just a draft of the billboard.
Okay, so
If you go to the next one,
Where
it has
is my-
nothing behind it.
There
I
it
was
is.
just throwing it together, but I had gotten to the point where we could copy things in, and Kim's graphics were darkened up from the time when I first had mine when I made the internet homepage. So I'm trying to figure out how to darken mine up. But
Yeah, I got picky with colors again. But
I
we just doodled some things. Oh, that's cool. I see what you did now. I totally spaced on looking at the new thing that she had done.
But see how it's so much lighter because I have the older graphic. So now we're trying to figure out how to darken it to match the other.
So like, I say this one is fine just because that's how that one is. And I did use the same color scheme on the van. But then for the magazine, I did darken it slightly.
Oh.
Which you'll see probably next. Maybe so. Yeah. And this is just, we scribbled to fill in the space to see how it would look.
okay, so I have to ask this question. This stuff looks really cool, but what exactly is the product or service that you're selling?
Can you go to the next one first?
What?
Can you click to the next one first?
Okay.
No, not that one, but keep going.
Not that one. That's our scribbly stuff.
Mirrors, but you're right. It's maybe
mirrors.
jumping out at you.
Okay, so we're selling mirrors and they're
Yes.
called star reflections, and the star holding the mirror is your logo guy.
Yeah, and our tagline is "Success is in sight."
Success is inside. Okay. What do you guys think? Any feedback from you guys?
So it doesn't jump out what it is.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Is like, so what is the service exactly for the product?
We need more
Yeah.
mirrors.
We have to make it.
Mirrors.
Yeah.
Well, could you
Oh, okay.
could you do something as simple as write mirror company underneath it?
Yeah, I think
We
we
could.
could. Pretty sure we could. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure we will.
Probably because I don't know what else to do.
Because
Kind of standard in an interesting font.
a star is also like a famous person, and I didn't know if you were selling some kind of service, like, you know, success is in sight, like, hey, you want to be a star, we have a social media company that reflects your image all over the internet, or something, you know what I mean?
Oh, well, it was kind of
This could also
along,
be the paparazzi mode, but
Yeah.
it was kind of along the superstar thing at first, but so I don't know how to tie it all together, but
It's fine. We'll figure it out.
Well, I love the background of the van. That's super cool.
yeah. Do you have a suggestion how I could darken mine up other than replacing both the background? image?
I know this one. So
But I
if you
played
hit,
with it and it's not that not the hue and the
just hit-
saturation. I did
yeah,
all
if you hit Control U and then you just bring the not the saturation, the hue a little bit towards your right, which is going to make it more of a darker, like blue color.
Well, I was doing a lot of saturation and photo filters and everything else, and it was distorting some stuff I didn't want to. So I would just do it on the background layer, maybe not on all the rest of the stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I did it on the whole. It probably matters where my layer is placed. Okay.
So one of the things I want to share with you guys is Kim and Mia are talking about hue and saturation, and this is an incredibly helpful tool inside of Photoshop. So what it is if you go under Image and then you go under Adjustments, you have a bunch of tools in here that you can use to adjust your image, and one of them is called Hue Saturation. And what this does is it gives you 3 sliders. The first slider will change the hue of whatever layer you're dealing with, right? And a hue, of course, is color. Saturation will change the intensity of that color. So it will get really bright and neon, or it will get really dull and almost like black and white. And lightness is how much white or dark is in it, right? So right now, I just downloaded their whole ping, so it's going to change everything. But you could target a specific layer like the star or the background of the van or whatever. But watch what happens. You click on this hue slider and you start to move it, and every, you know, because I have the whole thing.
Ooh. Sorry, it's a trip looking at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic though, the way that you can try out different versions of things like this, you know.
Well, and it was interesting because I had found it under layer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, adjustment layer, right?
Oh, yeah, add a photo filter, add a bunch of stuff. So, so there's a quicker way to get to just some basics, and then there's a.
Well, actually, I'm glad you said that, because after I show you these 2 sliders, I want to show you adjustment layers. But so saturation, if you watch this, what it's going to do is make the color really intense. Like if I grab this and drag it all the way over here, see how the blue just gets super saturated, which means it's like super intense, right? Or watch this, if I take it all the way down, it basically gets black and white. So you can saturate or desaturate. Desaturate is like a sponge that takes all the color out. And then lightness, of course, makes something lighter and you know, or darker. And then just for fun, you guys can try this too. Just for grins, you can click this colorize button over here and see what it does. It tends to do its own weirdo thing, but sometimes it looks really cool.
Well, and then under the master and the custom, there was all kinds of other really fun.
Yeah,
I haven't even clicked to those yet. Oh,
Yeah, like under
I didn't know that that was a thing.
I'll tell you the truth, I've never used this in my life because Photoshop is phenomenal. It's definitely the best image editing program, but there's just too much in it. Do you know what I mean? And like when I go to adjust hue or saturation, I'm usually just dealing with one layer. And so I'll go in there and I'll you know, adjust that thing. But it is nice to know that you could adjust the hue and saturation of.
Yeah, like what's under the custom above that? There was something more there too. Yeah, I found those really fun. Like saturation, increase saturation more.
Right, so you can use a sepia tone, you can do a cyanotype type.
I love those. Yeah, those are things that I'm very fond of.
Yeah, those are very cool. Now, the other thing that Mia was talking about was she was talking about something called an adjustment layer. Now, one of the things you have to know about the adjustments that we just did is they're what's called destructive changes. Now, destructive changes mean that when you make the change, you're basically destroying the original data. And it's, you know, in order to go back to it, you have to use that Photoshop history and go back all the steps and lose everything else you did, right? Now, there's a way to make changes which is non-destructive. And what that means is it leaves your original data intact, but it still makes the change on something called an adjustment layer. So like, if I do my adjustment right on this layer here, it's destructive. It changes the actual color. But if I go up to layer, new adjustment layer, and then hue saturation, what happens is I get this little slider here, which still has the same hue, saturation, and lightness sliders, but check this out. Let me see if I can open my layer palette here. And then I have to open my adjustment layer too, which just disappeared on me. Let's see. Adjustments. Oh, boo. Okay, let me throw this away and redo it so we can see it again. So let's see, hue saturation, let's say layer, new adjustment layer, hue saturation. Okay, great. So notice what happens is it puts a new layer, which is called an adjustment layer, above your image, right? And then let's say you make some changes. So we're gonna do this, we're gonna make this look as bad as humanly possible. Okay, great.
More saturation.
Yeah.
I like it. More cowbell.
So now you have this, but since it's an adjustment layer, it has respected the integrity of the original data. So watch this. If we turn the eyeball off, the original layer is still the original. And so you could stack up a bunch of different adjustment layers and try different things.
That's what I was doing.
If you don't like them, just throw them away or turn them off, right? And that's a really beautiful way to work because it means you still have the integrity of your original data, right? Okay. So are there other things that we should look at in your folder, Kim?
No, because that big like shared folder was all that we had. There's the class. Sorry, I'm like doing 4 different things at once.
So we have to we could just put mirror company unless we turn ourselves into a social media company.
Yeah, I mean, whatever kind of company you are, it might be good to say it because it's not clear to some of us.
Yeah, good point. We knew what we meant.
Okay. You know, you could say, we know what we mean underneath. I don't really care about you guys. We know what we are.
I love that.
I'm advertising to Mia and she's advertising to me. Okay. And now get over it. Okay. So
Maybe what it could be is like an advertisement for like a space wide.
Yeah.
What's that?
It could be like an advertisement for like a type of wide, like a space wide, or like a, what's it called? It's like a space museum. I forgot what they're called.
Oh,
Auditoriums.
Yeah, a planetarium.
Yeah, that.
Oh, that's cool too.
Yeah, you know what it could say? It could say, when your kids are bad, send them to the planetarium, right?
That's just avoiding bad behavior.
Sanitarium.
I'm only saying that because, have any of you guys ever been to the planetarium at the U of A?
Not that one.
Okay. Well, so when I was a kid, my parents thought it'd be a really great idea. Oh, let's take the family to the planetarium. And so you go in and you lay back in these chairs and you're looking up at this round dome and they show the stars, right? But then they play like a movie that's like 7 hours long, right? And, you know, and for a kid, this is a form of torture. So I think that should be the advertisement for planetariums. Bad kids, bring them here, right? And then you put them in the chair.
And then they have to sit still for like 7 hours.
Just leave them, like strap them in the chair, you know, and then leave. Okay, so Mia, there's nothing in your folder. It's all in this folder, right?
Yeah, we put them all in that one.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, it looks good. I like where you guys are headed with this stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so we've seen Luke. So Brianna, have you got something in there?
Yes.
Okay.
It should be under ad campaign.
Okay, and does the next graphic tell us a little more what you're advertising?
So right now we're still trying to figure out the type of game you want to do, but we were talking about it and we chose to do either a video game or like a game for an app. So we thought since we have a bunch of characters, we would use our own characters for the models of whatever game that we do. So since we're still trying to, right now we're talking about game ideas. I just, right now, because one of us were gonna, I think it was, I was gonna choose a character and she was gonna choose a character, and then we both would like draw them in our art style and put them on there. So that's why I only
Yeah,
have
like an art collab type of thing too.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds great. It sounds really fun. Okay, can I look at this other image too to see what you got on there?
Yeah.
Those people.
And then I'm the person that's doing the magazine and the website. So for this one, I thought of like you have the game title, and then you have some maybe like maybe the background of the game, like clouds or something in the back. And then here would actually have like the trailer of the game.
Okay. Yeah, this looks good.
Can you actually put a trailer into a Photoshop document, like a little movie?
You can't. You mean, can you have a working a video in a Photoshop?
Can you embed it?
Not that I know of. You can do animations in Photoshop. And you can,
I've done it.
yeah.
It's funky.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
And use layers. Okay.
Yeah, I know. And you can open up individual frames of a movie in Photoshop and edit them. But if you wanted to embed video, you'd be talking more about like a program like After Effects.
I have a quick question. Our idea was to do a little bit of animation in one of the projects. So she would do one part animation, whatever she wants to do, and then I would do the same thing. I was doing it mostly for the magazine. So having maybe the character's eyes like blink up and down. Yeah, open and close. Would I do that in Photoshop, or should I just go to After Effects and do it?
Well, you have your choice. I can think of at least 3 programs you could do it in, actually 4, but you could do it in Photoshop, using their interactive, their timeline. You could do it in Adobe Animate. You could do it in After Effects. You could even do it in Dreamweaver, just using an animated GIF or whatever. I would say to do it in whatever program you feel comfortable in with. And then if you just want to include it, let's see. If you wanted to actually include it with the graphic, you could do it in Photoshop and then just export it as an animated GIF.
Okay.
So like, for example, okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and you can go down here and you can go to timeline. And, oh, wow. So yeah, it says right here, create video timeline. So, apparently you can bring video into Photoshop. But if you click on this drop down, you create frame animation. I got to move some things here. Let's see. Okay, let me click create frame animation. So what happens is you can add new frames, and each time you add a frame, you do something different on it, and that creates the animation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if I'm just going to use some here. So on frame 1, I'm going to put this on another. Let's see. I guess I put it here. Let's see. Let me put an H in there.
This is very cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. Okay, I got to make this much bigger. All right, and then left align. Okay, so here we go. So here's our first layer. I got to get rid of this saturation thing because it's bugging me, right? Okay, here's our first layer, which has this H on it, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the H and copy it so there's another layer of that. And then I'm gonna right click on this. Let's see. I'm gonna right click on this and say merge down. So now the H is actually on the with the van, right? So now I can copy the layer with the van, and I can turn my H on my H text, and now I can put an E in here. Somebody's breathing really loud into the microphone, so you might want to mute yourself there. Okay, so now I've got HE, right? And so what I'm going to do, I'm making a copy of that as well. I'm going to merge this one down. And you see what I'm trying to do here is I'm creating an animation by first it's the H, then it's the HE. I was going to spell out hello, right? You know, each one would be a new letter added. And then what happens is you make a new frame, or you make a new frame in your timeline for each one. So for example, the first one says H, and then you click this new frame button. But then on the second frame, you just show the one with HE, right? And so what happens is when you play your animation, it goes H and then it goes HE, right?
Oh, I never done animations on Photoshop. I've always been taught just to do like the assets in Photoshop and then take it to After Effects to do it. And so I was like, is there an easier way for me to do it? But I might just do this way.
This is interesting. So how do you quote unquote play your animation? That's something that you do when you're viewing the file, you click on something?
No, you can play it now. Like you'll see it's going to play very quickly. It's just going from one frame to the other, HE, right? And you can even slow the whole thing down. You shift click on both of them to select both of them, and you click on the seconds here, and we say instead of let's see, we want it to be 2 seconds. Let's see, well, that was 0 second delay. So let's do half a second delay.
So
play and see how it's going slower.
Could it be an autoplay? Is there like an autoplay so that like a looping autoplay? I don't know.
Yeah, right now it's looping forever, but you can have it just play one time or however many times you want.
Wow.
So what happens when you save this, it saves as an animated GIF file. And an animated GIF file is just a file format where it brings in one image after the other at a certain time frame, at a certain time rate, right?
Does it save the entire file that used to be a Photoshop document? Now it's entirely a GIF, or are there two different documents?
Well, what you would normally do is you would save your master file at the PSD, which is the Photoshop document format, right? And then you could always go back and change it. But then you also save a version of it as a GIF, right? And when you saved it as the GIF, if it had information in the animation timeline, it would automatically put all the frames in, and you take that animated GIF, you throw it up on a website, and then it's just going to animate.
Dang.
Yeah, it's super fun. Yeah, and like I said, there is a video component down here, so apparently you can bring in a video, and it will show the whole video timeline, and then you can make changes to that video right here.
A lot of YouTubers I heard in the beginning actually would get like a free version of Photoshop, and they would put their videos in there, and that's how they would edit their videos for free.
Cool.
That's how they would what for free?
Edit their videos, or like when they make those like thumbnails and stuff like that, they would go onto Photoshop and do everything in Photoshop. And a lot of like new YouTubers would just go get the free version of Photoshop because they don't need that much information from it, and then they just would do it.
Okay, so where is the video one again? Because I didn't see. Can you point to that again?
To how I brought this up?
Yeah.
Okay, so this little window down here is called the timeline.
Okay.
And once you turn it on, then you can click this little symbol down here to make new frames. And the basic rule of it, as Kim said, is every frame is its own layer. So in order to produce an animation, the bottom frame is going to be the first thing you want to see, and then the second frame is going to be the second thing you want to see. And then
where's the video one then? Because you said.
Oh, what happens when you launch this timeline? It asks you if you want to use video or animation. So when you launch the timeline, I've already got something in here. Let me go to another file and see if it'll let me do it.
Launch the
Yes, here,
timeline.
do you see how it says create frame animation down here?
Okay.
But if you click on the drop down, you can change it to create video timeline.
Oh, okay.
And then you can click that, and then apparently you can bring in a piece of video and adjust all the frame, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is very cool. I like what you guys are doing. I love that you're using your own artwork. That's going to be very, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we got a few more teams here. So let's see. That was Brianna and Serena. So Milo, have you got anything? Let's see, Milo. I don't see Milo. Let me see if he's check out in the ether. I don't see him there. Okay, so let's see. And I don't see Yi here. So I think Yi and Milo were partners. I could be wrong, but maybe they're off working together on their project. So we'll come back to them. So Adrian.
Hello.
Oh, hi Yi.
Oh yeah.
Are you part of Milo?
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything?
I do. He told me he would have something. You might need to check.
So
magazine ad.
Okay.
Yes, we're gonna travel to Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a portable toilet as our spaceship, I suppose. Since Doctor Who has a phone booth, a police booth. Yeah, we don't have a police.
You got the
We got
plane?
Yeah, we were supposed to add rockets on the side.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
This is really funny. Little
It's supposed to be a parody.
Yeah, because instead of the TARDIS, it's the TURDIS.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really funny. Any feedback from any of you guys? Any of you guys Doctor Who fans?
I think these guys have a future.
Took me a whole summer to watch the whole season, the whole thing.
All of them? You watched all of them?
All of them.
Nice.
All of them. Yeah, I spent like good 4 months sitting in my room.
That's cool.
You should put like a little ad that says interview with Elon Musk.
Right, interview.
Yeah, we got some idea from the Elon Musk reveal, the part of the plan. So we kind of mimic that too. Yeah.
You could have a little Tesla floating in orbit around Mars.
Yeah. The Roadster. Roadster.
Yeah. Maybe you're going to have some kind of a tagline underneath Mars, like Journey, Mars Adventures, or something like that.
Or the Race to Mars.
Yeah. And then you could have headlines here about the different companies that are sort of vying. Like, isn't the guy from Virgin? Doesn't he have a rocket company? And doesn't Bezos have too?
He does. Sir something. I can't remember his name.
I can't remember his name.
He has a title too.
But anyway, you know who I mean. But and then
Richard Branson. Is it Richard Branson? Yeah.
That's him. Yeah.
I was thinking do a funnier version, like we only sell one-way ticket for now.
Oh, that's really funny.
Wow.
Or like send your grandparents to Mars, you know?
Yeah, something like that.
That's good.
Comical sense, yeah.
He's a sir. He's a Sir Richard Branson.
Yeah, he has a title.
Okay, this is really great, really funny. And then, so you don't know if Milo put anything in here?
You can check his folder. I'm not too sure.
Oh, that was the other thing. Yeah, well, without him being here, I don't really know what to look at. So
Yeah, I checked our shared folder. He hasn't submitted anything over there too, so maybe no. I'm not too sure.
Well, he joined. Well, he was kind of locked out of the session, and I admitted him, but it might have taken a while to find him. So he might have been out there in the ether and got tired and walked away from the computer or something. But
Yeah. Well, from what I know, he has work or something. That's the last time he talked. He said he'll have something by today.
okay.
Is he in the waiting room now?
No, he's not, because it would show up at the top of this list here, and he's not.
Oh.
Okay, well, good job, and we'll look to see if what we get from Milo eventually. So, Adrian, do you have anything in your folder? Or did we see yours already? Oh, we did see yours. Yes, you're part of a team that we already saw. Okay. Yeah, you're working on the Comic-Con with Eric, I think. Okay, so Claudia, anything happening there?
No, not at the moment.
Right. Okay, because you're getting with Alma, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Mia we've seen, Robin we've seen, and Alma is with you. And then we've got Luke Cottrell. Anything in your folder, Luke?
No, not at the moment. Diego and I are working on stuff. For the working on the logo right now. He's working on the billboard. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, the idea is I can explain with words, but so it's basically like this kind of mental health care kind of company, or that's the basic idea. We went with this like little sketch that Diego did of this like skull with a head, with a tree growing out of the top of its head. So instead of a skull, it's going to be like a person's face with a tree growing out the top of it. We're still kind of playing with the whole idea behind it.
It sounds really cool.
Yeah, it does. Did we see that graphic? Was that in something we saw? It sounds familiar.
I think so.
Yeah, it
I
was
think
one
so.
of my it was one of my show and tell art pieces that I shown.
Yeah, I liked that one.
If we go into the art folder, I think it should still be in there. It's the one with the skull. Hold on. Look at it. It's the third one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going off of this image. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So instead of like a skull, it's like a silhouette of like a human face, but we're gonna have it merge with a tree on the top of its head.
Yeah, it's like a spiral of the face is like kind of shaped in a spiral, so it's like the tree trunk line is coming down and around, and then it's going to loop under into the nose, and then there's got the two eyes in there. So just kind of working on it and trying to, the colors that we're choosing are like either going to be green, pink, and purple, or green, pink, and orange. We're kind of we're trying to figure out, just playing around with it, seeing how it works.
This kind of looks like you know when they say I want to put some lies, nature, like the earth just consumes them back and gets nutrients from them. This kind of looks like this as a picture. If any illustration shows that, it's this.
Like in the future, they're gonna cut the tops off of people's heads and plant trees in there.
Yep.
And then they'll just grow from the brain nutrients or whatever.
We need to do is eat the seeds, and that's it. A tree will grow from us.
We'll all be vegetables.
Well, some of us have a head start, but my friends used to have this. They used to joke and call it the personal growth painting company, because they were always having these deep conversations when they were painting buildings. But the growth of the tree kind of coming out of his head just reminds me of that, like personal growth. I know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the direction we're going with it, like some kind of therapy almost. I guess for just people, anybody. I guess that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it.
Yeah, the website I was kind of using to reference most of my stuff was called Headspace.com. Has been like my first start to understanding like mental health in like in a very simplistic form.
No, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Hey, I have an idea for your company. Maybe you could have people drive around in unmarked vans and just grab people off the street.
Oh yeah.
And then
I
those
like this.
clients, right?
Oh yeah. Free
Put 'em
clients right there.
It's the thought police. We're starting the thought police.
Yeah, I call it a mental fitness, or like emotional fitness. We do like nutritional fitness and we do physical fitness, and a lot of people neglect the emotional, psychological fitness aspect. So you can do it just
It's the re-education psych ward.
It looks.
I am not going outside my house because I know they're going to come.
Well, it looks great. I'm excited to see what you guys are going to do.
Cool.
Okay, so it's 2:30. Why don't we take a 15-minute break and then we'll come back and get started again.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, you guys. It is 2:45 and we're coming back to the class here. So let's see. Let me get this all set up. Let's see. I'm going to go do my screen share again. Close that. Okay. And then open this up. Participants and chat. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what I want to do right now is I wanted to show you some examples of things you could do for your different formats that you're putting your ads in. So for example, you're doing a website, a magazine, a billboard, and a van. Yesterday we looked at the van and that template, and I did the little panda demo. And today we're gonna look at websites, and I'll do a little website demo in Photoshop. So, okay, here we go. So I just added this new link onto the website. It's called Website Layout Examples. And if you click on this link right here, it will take you to this is a website that sells a theme that can be used with WordPress called Astra. And Astra is a theme that looks really good, very professional, very sort of modern day WordPress website look. And what they have is they have a bunch of what are called starter templates on this page. And you can look at these templates and maybe get some ideas for layout for your website in the ad. So I'm just going to scroll down here so you can see, like, here's an ad for here's a website for an outdoor adventure site. Here's one for a dog care site. And I'll just scroll down here, organic store right there. This is one, this might be, what is that? Happiness. This is what I do. I speak, I teach, I write. I don't know, maybe self-care website. This one is one for a t-shirt company. There's one for a book. Here's one for an educational website, and so on and so forth. So, there's plenty of these sites around that have examples of website layouts, or starter templates as they call them. And you might get some ideas from these for your website. Now, when you make a website, there's always a couple things that exist on a website. There's the logo, which tends to be in the top left corner. Let me go ahead and click this visit full site. Okay, so there's the logo, which tends to be in the top left corner because that's the first thing you see when looking at a website. We read from top to bottom and left to right. There's always a menu, which is where you click to go to the different pages. And then there can be, like a tagline and a photograph. Maybe there's sales, and maybe there's buttons to click on. And sometimes there's like a carousel here, which changes pictures from one to the next. Or there might be one big picture up here and like a little carousel underneath it. I'm sorry, this is what I mean, the multiple pictures underneath that take you to different places, right? Let me see if I can find a picture of a carousel here. It doesn't look like they're showing any, but I think you guys know what I mean when that top picture changes. That's referred to as a carousel. Here's another example. You could have a picture going all the way across the top and have some icons down at the bottom that people can click on, and so on and so forth. I mean, the list is just endless, right? But let's go into Photoshop and let's see what it would look like to, you know, to basically do a layout for one of these. So let's see. How about I just go ahead and work on this image that I have right here. So I'm going to do something here. By the way, this is a cool little trick that you can do in Photoshop. You can, what I want to do, since I want to use this as an example to do a web page, for right now, I want to take this text out of here, right? And let's see. So, you know, I could turn that text off like that, right? Which is a great thing to do. But let's say that this text was merged down with the background layer, right? So I'm going to take this text layer here. I'm going to unlock the background layer, and I'm going to say merge down, which takes one layer and flattens it down and adds it to the layer below, right? So merge down. So now that text is actually part of the background layer, right? Now let's say you end up in a situation where you have something like this. You have some image or some text on another layer that you want to get rid of, right? Here's a really cool thing that you can do. You can click on your selection tool here, your rectangular selection tool, and you can draw out what's called a marquee or a box, the marching ants around it, right? And, you know, make sure you're on that layer. And then what you do is you go edit and you go fill. Now with fill normally fills in like a color or something. You can choose to fill it with the foreground color, which is this front color chip here. You can choose to fill it with the background color, which is this back color chip. You can choose your own color from what's called a color picker, right? You know you want to fill it with a color, right? Or you can fill it with a black, white, or 50% gray, right? You can also fill it with a pattern if you've got a pattern in your pattern library, right? But this is the one that I want to show you. You can fill it with something called content aware. And what content aware does, it's basically artificial intelligence. And what it does is it detects all the pixels all around the content. Like here we have these lowlands and then we have the mountains, right? And what it tries to do is it tries to extrapolate from the data that's there, data that should be there in the area that you want to get rid of. And it tries to fill it in as if it never existed, as if you were just taking a photo of the mountains and that text never existed. Now, sometimes it works like an absolute charm and sometimes not so good, right? Let's see how it works. So I grabbed all this text here. You know, I mean, I surrounded it with my marquee. I chose edit fill and I chose content aware. And then I simply hit OK. And look at that. Now, it did a pretty good job. It didn't do a great job because you can see that this looks kind of blurry here. And, you know, these little trees that it grabbed, it looks like they're a little kind of blurry too. Right, so, you know, sometimes it doesn't do a fantastic job, and this was not a fantastic job. But if I did, let me try doing just one section of this text just to show you how good it can be, because it's kind of hit or miss. Let's just say we wanted to do just this word get. So we say fill, content aware. Yeah, and see, that's much better. Do you see how the word just absolutely disappeared into the background? It just looked like mountains, right? So that's phenomenal. It really does a good job. Now, at times, sometimes it not so much, right? Now, what I want to do to make my life a little easier, though, is I'm going to open the history palette, which is this guy right here, and notice that as I click back in my history, it goes back through all the things that I just did. Now, what I want to do is I want to go back to before I merge this layer down. I'm going to go down here to where it says make layer. And then since this text is now a separate layer, I can turn it off, which is what I really wanted to do. Now, I'm pretending that this is going to be the front page of a website, right? Now, I've got the logo here. I'm going to go ahead and rename this logo so it'll be easy for me to know what it is. And then if this were really a web page, this logo would probably be much smaller. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to transform, I'm going to scale this, right? Now, you can do edit, transform, scale. Or in my case, I like to do the quick key command, which is Command T or Control T. and that will give you the bounding box. Also, there's a little, show transform controls button that shows up here you can click on. But anyway, I'm going to click on this and I'm just going to drag it down and resize it to maybe the size it might be on a website. It might be much smaller than that, right? Okay, and then because we know that websites have menus, clickable menus, I'm going to go ahead and put a text layer up here and just put some generic menu items on it. So I'm going to click on my type tool. I want my text to be white, so I could either click up here, which is the text color, and drag this little dot to white, right? That's one way I could do it. Or I could just come down here and I can click on this little rounded arrow, this arrow that has sort of the round between them, and click boom like that. And what it does, this little switch here flips the background and the foreground colors. The foreground color is what always shows up there, and the background color is just the second color you can work with. So because white was in the background, if I click here, I can turn it to white there. Another thing you could do is click this little icon to reset to black and white, the foreground and the background color, and you can also just hit this little, reset or flip tool. And the third thing you can do is you can hit the letter X on your keyboard, and X will flip the background and the foreground colors. Okay, so now that I've got white, I'm going to click and drag out a big text box here. Now my text is really huge, so I'm going to have to change this down to like, 12 points or something like that. I'm going to click on this little T and hold my mouse down and drag it to the right until my text is about the size that I want. And then I'm going to go in here and edit this lorem ipsum text. So I'm going to type the word home. Let's see. Get rid of my caps lock. Okay, I'm going to type the word home. And then I'm probably going to, let's see, left align this. And then I could just put in some space here, so I could go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, let's say. And I could say, what do you want to say? Things that are for sale. Store. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I could say about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see, contact would probably be last. I could say galleries. Okay, so I'm just going to put some sort of generic things here, right? So here's my navigation system, right? I'm leaving some room over here to put like maybe a search box and like a shopping cart icon, right? And so this is starting to look like a website to me. If I want to make like a search box, I can create a new layer. My layer palette got incredibly tall here, so I'm gonna grab the bottom of it and drag it up so that it's smaller. And of course, when I work on these, I like to you can grab palettes and you can just drag them off and they'll be floating around. But I kind of like to drag them back on so that when you click this button, it opens up, and when you click this double-headed arrow, it closes up again. So if you want to look at your layers, you do that. But if you want to click on your character palette for text, you can click this one. So it's just a very nice way to see things. But I want to make a search box now. So I'm just going to make a new layer. And I might just, I try to label these things as I go. I'm not always great about it, but I'm going to make a search box here. I'm going to click on my selection tool. And, maybe I'll make the search up here at the top kind of thing. So I'm just going to make basically a rectangle. I'm going to say edit, well, let's see. Edit stroke, and let's see, where's my stroke go? Over here, right? Stroke will let you put a stroke of color around an object, and so I want to put a 1 pixel stroke of white. I want it centered down this line. I can have it inside the line or outside the line. And I'm going to hit OK and see what it looks like. So there it is. It's pretty like in your face. You know what I mean? It's like so bright. So what I could do is I could click on my opacity drop down here, and I could make it more transparent so that it becomes less in your face, right? Now, one of the things about design, and this is especially true in web design, is you work with what we call an information or a visual hierarchy, right? And the visual hierarchy is what do you see first, what do you see second, what do you see third, right? And the things that make you see one thing over the other are position, right? Like for example, this this image, which is the logo, it's in the top left corner, which is the first thing we see because we read left to right, top, top down. So that gets like our first attention because it's in that corner and it's a picture and it's colorful and it's big, right? Next, our eye probably moves us to the right and we see the menu items. Then we might see whatever content's down here and then our eye would drop down to the bottom, right? So what I'm doing by lessening the opacity on this is I'm saying this item is less important than these items, right? And so I don't want you to pay as much attention to it. I just want you to know that it's there if you need to use it, right? So I'm basically stepping it down in the hierarchy, right? Now, I probably want to have some kind of either the word search here or maybe a little icon of a magnifying glass, right? Now this is where things like the vector sites really come in, the free vector sites really come in handy, right? So if I go to Vecteezy and I type in magnifying glass and I type in like silhouette, because I really just want the outline of one, right? Then I'm going to get a bunch of choices. And let's just use this one right here. Oh, I don't know. Let's see. Why am I getting this weird lady? I was hoping to get this magnifying glass. It's weird. I got this weird lady. All right. I'm not sure what that's all about.
You probably clicked on the name instead of the
okay, thank you. All right. Let's see. Let's click on just the. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, and then I saw the person. Thank you, Robin. So okay, so I'm going to download this, and of course, Vecteezy is a vector site, which means everything's going to open in Illustrator, right? You could open. They usually give you something that will open in Illustrator, like an EPS, but they also give you something that will open in Photoshop if you want to do that. And sometimes I go into Photoshop. Most of the time, I go right into Illustrator, because it gives me more options with customizing the object, right? So let me wait until this thing opens and then, okay, thank you, we'll call you. Okay, so let's see, this thing is probably grouped together. No, it looks like it might not be. So let me get rid of, shoot. All right, it looks like this is all just one thing that I don't want there. I don't want that. I don't want, okay. I have to try and, this is clearly all grouped together and it's a pain in the butt. I'm trying to see if I can just select certain things and fill them with color. What a pain in the butt. Okay, so I don't like this thing. It would take me a while to mess with that to get it to be the way I want. Now, in that case, it actually does make sense to go into Photoshop because I could just select the things that I want. So I'll go back to my drop down, I'll click on this JPEG and drag that into Photoshop. Of course I get this thing, right? But now I can click on my magic wand, click the stem of the magnifying glass, hold my shift key down, click the magnifying glass itself, and just copy that stuff, right? Now I can go back to here and I can just do edit paste. Now it's going to paste this giant magnifying glass in here. And I can do Command T, which is transform, and I can basically scale the magnifying glass down. I could have done this, I could have scaled it down in when I first opened it up, but I had no idea how big it was, right? So here it is. I just want to get it small enough that I can see it on the screen, and then I can zoom back in there. Okay, so here's our magnifying glass, right? Now, obviously it needs to get much smaller. Control T once again to get the controls, right? And then click this little check mark to finalize what you just did. Now I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to put it over here, right? Now there's a couple things I want to do. First of all, I want it flipped the other direction, right? So I'm going to go edit, transform, flip horizontal, and that's going to flip it that way, right? Now, another thing I want to do, I want to make it a little smaller, but I'm tired of dragging this thing, right? So I'm going to do Control T to select it, but this time I'm going to go to my navigation bar up here where I have all these controls, and you see where it says width 100%, height 100%, and the chain link means that the two are linked together. If I change one of these numbers, like put in 80, my thing just got smaller because both of them are now 80% of what it originally was, 80% of 100%. And so now I have a smaller magnifying glass, right? Now I could, oops, I better lock that background layer. I'm gonna go down here and click on this little lock to lock that so it doesn't get moved. Now, this layer 3 right here is my magnifying glass. I have to name it. And then it might be a little difficult to click on, but it looks like I can grab it, right? Yeah, it's just being a little pain to move. So I'm using my little arrow tools on my keyboard to move it, get it into the right location, right? And, you know, I could make it a little smaller. I could make it the same size as the search box. Let me try 80% again. So I just made it even smaller. Okay, so there it is. Now it's about the same height as the search box, right? Now the one problem that we have with it, obviously when it's that small, it's getting a little wonky as far as graphically it doesn't look that good, right? But the other thing is we can't really see it because it's black. So we want it to be white. Now, one of the problems is when you take an image that's this small, it's very pixelated, and you try to change the color, you know, like if you try to select the whole thing and fill it with white, it's going to get a little funky. But fortunately, Photoshop helps us out in this regard. Remember down here these special effects that you can use, and we had things like, you know, we've done the bevel and emboss. I showed you guys the outer glow. Well, it has this awesome one called color overlay. And what that does is it just takes any color you choose and overlays it over the existing pixels. So all I have to do is click on color overlay and choose white. White happens to be in here right now, but it could be any color. And then what it does is it puts a little overlay of white over my image, right? And that comes in as a special effect, which you can turn on and off, right? So boom, there's my little search box, you know? Okay, so, and you know, I can move that around and everything. In fact, I think I am gonna move it. I think I wanna make room for maybe my, my shopping cart icon over here. So I'm gonna click on my magnifying glass. I'm gonna hold my shift key down and click on the search box. And then I'm gonna click on my arrow on my keyboard, just move this over a little bit. So I have room for my shopping cart icon, right? Once again, I'm gonna go back to somewhere like Vecteezy. I'm gonna type in shopping cart icon. Okay, and I don't really care what I get. I'll just click this stupid thing here. I actually like that one better, but that's okay. Okay, same thing here. This time I might just go, let's see. I don't think this one's gonna be as much of a pain in the butt as that other one was. So I'm gonna go back into Illustrator, which is where I prefer to go, because of the ability it gives me to select individual things. So normally when you open one of these vector programs, everything's all grouped together. So once again, you have to go Object, Ungroup, and sometimes you have to do that a couple times. Like, see how I ungrouped it and then ungrouped the shopping carts in the background, but the shopping carts are still grouped with each other, so I have to ungroup them again, right? So now I can click on my preferred shopping cart, copy it, you know, go into Photoshop down here and just click on this top layer, edit, paste, and then there it is, right? Once again, I can resize this. I'll just get it down to approximately the size I want. Hit that tool right here. I can't see it, but I can just quickly do my color overlay, and now it's white. And now I can click on this and just, you know, drag this up here, right? There's my shopping cart. Now I could do other things. I could take this this menu here, and I could, you know, try to center it more in the center of this. Oops, I don't know why it does that. Let's see. I want to center it in the space up here. In other words, there's approximately the same amount of space here as there is from there to there. Anyway, I could keep working with it, but that's good enough for rock and roll, right? Now, other things that I can do, obviously, if this was going to be your web page, you would have some content right here in the middle. You might have a tagline like "Get away from it all," or "Get away from it all this weekend with 10% off," or whatever it is that you're promoting, right? And so I'll just put some, some example of something here. I'll use their font because they had me download that font. So I'll say, let's see. Let's see. I'll just say, oh my gosh, I can't do it all caps. That looks weird. Okay. Don't get away from it. Get to it. Okay, this is a weird tagline that means nothing to anybody, but okay, I'm doing a terrible job here with this, but my idea was like, you know how you say you're trying to get away from it all? Well, so what I'm trying to say here is, there's obviously, clearly there's something you want to get away from, but there's also something you want to get to, which is nature, right? And like I said, this is the world's worst tagline, but that's okay. And I'll put a little period here. And keep increasing the size of this so everything will fit on my page, right? And then, obviously this thing is so ginormously white and in your face that I might do better to do something like take the opacity of this layer down, right? Now this is actually a perfect opportunity to show you these things which are called blending modes, which are up here. And these are special effects which combine two layers together. And what I can do here is I can roll my mouse over different possibilities and see what will happen. Now, unfortunately, when you have white, there's not a lot of choices of what happens, but you can see that this overlay thing gives you some cool things. Let me make this a different color. Let me make it that orange color so that it gives me more interesting possibilities. So I'm going to click on my color chip here, and I'm going to select this orange. And okay, now when I try these different choices, it's going to do different things. Now you can see some of them are more interesting than others, like that screen makes it semi-transparent. This color dodge does some interesting things to it. And you can just roll over these and it will show you all of the different possibilities. That one's pretty cool. And this is what I do a lot. I just try things out and see what I like, what works, Anyway, so, maybe now we're approaching something that starts to look like a web page, something that that fits our ad campaign, blah, 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 right? So anyway, okay, so let me stop right there. Anybody have any questions they want to ask or comments?
Greg, does the text have to be on a separate layer for you to do that effect?
Yes, because the blending modes, which are this drop down right here, these are called blending modes. The way to remember what they do is the word blend. For a blending mode to work, you have to have at least two layers, because what it does is it blends information from the bottom layer with the top layer. So in order for this to blend with something, it's got to be a separate layer.
Okay. Also, I was wondering, when you were showing us the history panel,
yeah,
when you undid that move where you merged the two layers, I was wondering if there was any way to take out, let's say this text was on this layer, I was wondering if there was another way to take out the text from that layer.
Well, the only other way that I know of, there's only two ways I know of, and I demonstrated both of them. One is to use your history panel to go back before you merge the text down with the background. And the other is to use the content aware fill and just, yeah, and have it fill that in. I don't know. There may be other ways. Photoshop is like an infinite program, but those are the only two that I know.
I had a question.
Yeah.
How do you know which two layers, this might be dumb, maybe I'm not getting it, but which two layers are blending? Do you get to choose which two?
Well, actually what happens, that's a really good question. it just blends with everything that's visible underneath it.
Okay.
So in other words, my text layer is, let's see, let me click on this. So my text layer is way down here near the bottom. And really the only thing that's underneath it is like the logo and the menu for the website and then the picture. Well, of course, the menu from the website and the logo are up here, so they're not underneath this. So it's blending with this bad boy right here. You notice when I turn this off, it's blending with nothing, so we don't see an effect. But when we put that on, then the special effect comes in, right?
Could you move it just to see what, like, if it went up to a different level? I mean, put it back, but I mean, no, I mean, sorry, that's a good one too.
Oh, you mean move it up in the layers?
Yeah, but no, that was a good one too, because it would blend differently, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not much on this website, but yeah, like look at this, because see, right now it's blending with these mountains, which are not that interesting, but when you get it up here, it starts to look really cool, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, and also I don't like this being in the same font.
Position and position. It's like,
you know, maybe what I would do in this case is I would try to get it all in.
yeah. I like the tagline, by the way. It's not the worst tagline in the world.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, now let me tell you guys something else that you can do. And of course, this is getting like nuts and everything, but like, let's say that I love this tagline. I love the way it looked. I loved its position, but this mountain was just totally bumming me out, right? Oh, the mountain's just a little too high, right? So this is a case where you could use a couple of different tools. You could try that content aware fill. It's probably not going to work great, but I'll try it just for grins. And then if that didn't work, you could try your clone stamping. So what I want to try and do here is I want this part of the mountain to become the sky. So that
literally moving mountains. This is hilarious.
What's that?
You're literally moving mountains.
That's exactly what I do. Okay. So, thank you. So I'm going to try the content aware fill. I'm skeptical. What the hell? Oh, I must be on the wrong layer. Sorry, I got some weirdo. Oh, I know what I did. I clicked the wrong thing. Okay, so what I wanted to do was go to fill. I clicked content aware fill, which is, it's different. Fill content aware is what you want. So I'm going to click OK. And like I said, I'm skeptical, and I deserve to be skeptical because, see, it did this kind of weirdo thing here. But now here's something else I can do. You guys are going to dig this, I think. I can make a selection, and then I can click on that clone stamp tool, this little clone stamp that we've used before, right? Now I want to make my size of my brush something I can work with. Now this is really cool. When you make a selection and you start painting or clone stamping with it, it will only do it inside the selected area, which means I can start clone stamping in here and it won't go down here and it won't go up there, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold down my Option or my Alt key and click on this little purple area over here to get a sample. Then I'm going to move my clone stamp brush over here and I'm going to start clone stamping. Now, unfortunately, that was too dark a color, so I'm going to try it here. Let's see. So this is what I'm doing. I'm clone stamping this purple color, and notice how even if I go below the line here, it's just staying in this area, right? Now, because this is a gradient of color, it changes color, so I have to do a new sample over here, you know, to try and get this color to match what it looks like over there, right? And it's not going to be perfect, you know. There's going to be areas like this where it kind of goes one into the other or whatever. Now, what I could do to kind of get this to work a little better is I could add a blur to this. So I can go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and that's clearly too much, right? But if I just add a little bit of a blur to it, I want to add just enough blur so that that dividing line between my dark and my light gets kind of blurred out, right? Now, when I do that, it works, but then I get this little extra blur of the mountain, which I'm not crazy about. Maybe I'll just do that. That's not perfect, but at least it doesn't blur them out now too much, right? Okay, so now you can also, you can see what it looks like without the section highlighted here. If you hold down your control or your command key and you hit the letter H while you have a selection, what it's going to do is it's going to hide the selection. Control H will hide the selection. Now, this all looks pretty good except for this little blobby thing there, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to commit to that. I'm just going to turn off my selection. So select, deselect. And then the one last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and merge these two a little better. I'm going to use something called the, where is it? The smudge tool. It's over here underneath your blur tool. It looks like a little finger that's going to smudge things, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that up to a little bigger size here. And what I'm going to try and do is smudge one color into the next. So I'll take this, this dark purple and just kind of smudge it over a little and see how that kind of makes it disappear a little better, right? Like that. Now, of course, somebody who had really keen eyes would still see the difference there, but the more you work on it, the less visible it becomes. And of course, there's more tools and techniques you can do to kind of fix it up, right? Okay, but let's just, for now, let's just say we're gonna leave that. You notice when you get out this far, oh, it's still really visible. Let me try one more technique here, which is this this healing brush tool. The healing brush tool also blends pixels together to try and make them look like they belong. So I'm going to sample over here and I'm going to paint right here. I'm just trying to get these to blend together, and that works pretty well, actually. So now when we zoom out, you know, there's still a little bit of a blur here. Wow, it's still pretty obvious. Anyway, I don't want to spend any more time on it, but if I spend enough time on that, I could, like, you know, get it to look good. But you can see what my goal was, which is to move mountains and get that down, and then you know, have a little more sky for me to be able to put my stuff in, right? Okay, questions? Any more questions about that stuff? Okay. All right, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you the rest of this period to work with your partner on your ad project. And so, you know, today we looked at your stuff. We gave you some feedback, hopefully some good constructive criticism. And I'd like you to go ahead and take your ad to the next level. So in other words, if it was a sketch, let's take it up to a more, you know, finished version. If you had a mock-up, let's take that mock-up to the next level, you know, so take everything up to the next level so we can look at it tomorrow and give you a little more feedback, and so that eventually, you know, you'll be finished in all those formats. Okay, any other questions before I set you guys loose?
If you said you had like extra credit, how do we see those if we had time later?
Yeah, let me show that to you. So if we go to the class website, so right now you guys are working on the ad campaign, which obviously has a magazine ad, a billboard, a web page, and a van, right? And each person in the two-person team is doing 2 of those. Now, if you guys finish early, if you knock all that stuff out and it looks great and you're like, we're done, right? And you want a little extra credit, I have 4 projects down here and you can pick one and you can do it as an individual for extra credit. So instead of making 1 page of a website, you could make 3 pages of a website. So you could make the front page, the about page, and the store page or something, whatever 3 pages you want. You could make ads that would appear on a bus stop. You know how you see the bus stops with the big rectangular posters in them around town? You can make 3 ads that are connected that would appear in a bus stop. You can make 3 postcards that are all advertising something similar. Or you can make a trifold brochure, which is like an 8.5 by 11 sheet that folds in and it's got information on all the panels, you know. So these are just, you know, a graphic design projects that you can put together on your own if you want extra credit, if you finish early, right?
Is there a template for a trifold brochure, or you just kind of create it?
Well, yeah, there are templates, but let me show you how you could just create one. Here's a cool trick. So you go File, New, and of course this would be a print item. It would be letter sized, and it would be landscape, right? And then you click Create. So you get this. Now, the problem here is getting this in exactly 3 sections, correct?
Yeah.
You know, because you could drag out these guidelines and you could do the math and say, okay, what exactly is 1/3 of 8.5, right? And you could probably drag something out close, right? However, here's a little trick you can do. You can make a box. Let me see, how do I want to do this? Oh, yeah. You can make a box of any size. Make sure you make it on a new layer. So I'm gonna create a new layer here, and I'm gonna fill this box with a color, and I'm gonna just do Edit Fill, and now I've got let's see, foreground color. Now I've got a little red box, right? Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold my Alt key down, and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to drag it over to the right, and I'm going to hold my Shift key down so that as I drag it, so it drags in the same plane, right? And I'm going to drag it so that it stops where the other one starts, right? Or I mean, it starts where the other one stops, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it with a different color. It doesn't matter what color, right? And I'm going to use a quick key command, which is Alt Delete. To fill that with a color. I'm gonna hold down my Option key again, click on this, hold down my Shift key, and move this over once again until the start and stop point is right there. And then just for grins, I'll change this to a 3rd color and do Alt Delete to fill it. Okay. Now we now have this sort of tri-color box thingy happening, right? Here's the cool thing. This is what you might call a Photoshop hack. It's just something I figured out, right?
Yeah.
What you do is you do Control T to select the whole thing in your transform box.
Yeah.
You hold your Shift key down and you simply drag this over to the end, right? Now, because these 3 boxes are all the same size, when you rescale them horizontally, they're still the same size, right? Which means now you could, they're exactly 1/3 of the width of this. So now you can drag these guidelines over, and this produces your trifold template.
You hate math as much as I do?
What's that?
You hate math as much as I do?
Yeah, I hate math. And you know, this isn't perfect. There's a little white space here. I should have dragged this a little bit over this way a little more, you know, to get it perfect. But you know, it's good enough. Let's just put it that way. So now you've got your trifold brochure. You can put the front, you can make a little folder here, click on this folder icon, and you could put the front of your brochure in this folder and make another folder and put the back of your brochure in this folder, and then just turn them off and on when you're working on different things. So essentially you've got your whole brochure front and back in one file, but when you're printing it, you're either just printing the back or the front, right? And so, you know, this is one way that you can sort of create your own template. There are templates out there on the internet that even have, you know, sample layouts in them and stuff, and you can look at those as well.
Okay.
Okay, other questions or comments? Okay, so why don't you guys connect with your partners, work for the rest of the period on the project. We'll take a look at what you've done tomorrow, and I'll be here if you have any questions.
Cool, thank you.